Question number 9. Is same-sex family about the needs of children, or is it about the wants of adults? In order to answer that question, we can learn a lot from the world's most famous lesbian mom. Who in the world is that? That's Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell, a number of years ago, did an interview with Diane Sawyer. And in that interview, she talked about her family, and she talked about being a lesbian and a lesbian mom and the experience of that, and her children. And the subject of her little boy, Parker, came up. Parker was 6 years old at the time. And Diane Sawyer asked Rosie, she says, "Does Parker ever ask about his dad?" And Rosie said yes. In fact, I want to read it from the transcript just so that you get the impact of this. What does little Parker say? Rosie says this. He says, "I want to have a daddy." And Rosie says, "I can imagine that would be great. And it would probably be easier for them if I were married to a man. But here's what I tell them. Parker, if you were to have a daddy, you wouldn't have me as a mommy because I'm the kind of mommy who wants another mommy." That is a stunning statement. And I don't even know if Rosie appreciates what she said. Little Parker wants a daddy. And little Parker didn't learn about needing a daddy because Rosie unwittingly enrolled him in a fundamentalist day school where they indoctrinated him with that. Or he didn't get the idea from listening to Dr. Dobson on the radio every day. He knows he needs a daddy because he's a little boy and there's no adult in his home that's like he is, who can teach him what it's like to grow up to be a man. And so he has that desire. I want a daddy. And what's the answer from his mom? The answer is, Parker, I'm sorry, you don't get what you need because I want what I want. And there are a whole lot of different systems of parenting out there, but I don't know of anyone who thinks that is a good idea of parenting. It's remarkable. Okay, now whenever we debate this issue, the other side says, okay, that's all good and fine, Glenn, but would you really deny all the thousands of children out there that are being raised by same-sex parents the rights and benefits and protections of marriage? And the answer is, let's ask Parker and all the little children like him. Has he ever said, Mama, why can't we have all the rights and benefits and protections of marriage? That's an adult argument. Adults care about such things. Children want their parents. Little girls want their daddy. Little boys want their daddy. Little boys and girls want their mommies. But same-sex marriages, same-sex families cannot provide that. Why? Because the needs of the adults come first. When considering same-sex marriage and the needs of children over and against the wants and desires of adults, it's instructive to compare this experiment, the same-sex family experiment, with the no-fault divorce experiment. And one of the women that is probably the most learned individual on the impact of divorce on children, really in the world, is Dr. Judith Wallerstein. And she just published a book in 2000 where she looked at the long-term impact of divorce on children. And what she says in there, looking back, is very haunting, and it really reminds us of kind of what we're experiencing here today. Let me share this quote with you. She says, of the divorce experiment in the early 70s, we embarked on a gigantic social experiment without any idea of how the next generation would be affected. And the quote continues, if the truth be told, and if we are able to face it, the history of divorce in our society is replete with unwarranted assumptions that adults have made about children simply because such assumptions are congenial to adult wishes. And here's something that's very, very telling. At the end of the day, and we hear the ethic from Rosie O'Donnell and other lesbian parents, how different is Rosie than the 1970s or 80 pariah man who goes out and gets a trophy wife, who says, everybody else is going to have to adjust because of what I want? You know, Donald Trump is not a whole lot different than Rosie O'Donnell. because they both want what they want, and everybody else has to make adjustments. And that is not a good, compassionate family ethic. No society anywhere has been able to sustain itself with a buffet-like mentality to family, where adults just go through the line, pick and choose what they want according to their own tastes and desires, and one choice is just as good as the other, and then everybody has to deal with the implications and the fallout from it.